Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk about 3 thinking patterns that kind of start getting us into conflict with other people and the people closest to us unnecessarily. So the first one is comparing past decisions that someone made to current decisions that they're making without context. So when we do this, we we tend to take decisions that someone in our life is making with regard to us or something we're asking them to do. We're taking it personally because we're aware of a decision they made differently, maybe with someone else, or same circumstance but different decision, and we think we should get the same type of decision because we know about their past decision making. So the reason why this is a thinking pattern that gets us into conflict, and it could be a thinking error, is because it sort of discounts that people change their minds or change. People have different decision making depending on maturity, growth, new information. There's a lot of different reasons why someone may make different types of decisions today than they did in the past, even though it's a similar circumstance. So there could be a lot of different factors that could be going into this different type of decision, and it may not be something that's personal, like they're personally trying to make things difficult for you. They just have a different way of looking at it than they did in the past. That we can correct this thinking pattern is just to kind of be cognizant that people make decisions based on experiences and information, and decision making can change over time as people grow and start to acquire new information. And it may not be anything that has to do with you personally. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind, and that'll help you from not taking things personal and thinking that it's an attack on you if somebody is you're engaging with is making different types of decisions with you than you know that they did with someone else in the past. Okay, so the next one is projecting how somebody treats other people onto how they're going to treat you. So I had to catch myself in my tracks on this one very recently because I was speaking with a friend about how they were making judgments about the way they were interacting with someone else. And it seemed like they were being very inflexible about certain things that they had to do and who would be responsible for what. And although I tried to offer different perspectives to kind of help him understand a more reasonable way to approach the situation, he was like not budging. And I was thinking, oh, if you're this inflexible with this person, you're probably going to be very inflexible and have to have it your way in things that deal with me in the future. Maybe I don't want to continue to be friends with you. But then I had to catch myself and I was like, you know what? I don't know their relationship dynamic. I don't know. There's different nuances when it comes to people and relationships. I don't know. Maybe he's felt very taken advantage of by this person in the past. Maybe he's sacrificed a lot in a lot of other ways. There could be all kinds of details that I don't even know about. And I'm assuming that just because I'm getting a little bit of information about how he's making decisions with one person, that's also going to apply to me. And that's a thinking pattern that will make me lose trust or have my guard up. And it won't help the relationship move forward because I'm not giving the person a chance to see how they're going to relate to me and how they're going to cooperate with me. So, a solution to this thinking pattern is just to remember that relationships are very nuanced, and just because you might see how someone treats somebody else in their life doesn't mean they're going to treat you exactly the same way. because you don't really know all the backgrounds and the ins and outs of that relationship. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't have our spidey senses up with how we observe people treat other people. I'm a big proponent of watching how people treat people, like people in the service industry, to kind of get a gauge of how this person is. But as far as like decisions and cooperativeness and things like that, when I'm starting to learn a person, it's not a good idea to just automatically think that my interactions are always going to be the same way as how I see them interacting with someone else, because I don't know all the nuances of that relationship. Third thinking pattern that can get us in trouble sometimes is assuming equality in sacrifices. This is where we accept other people to make the same type of sacrifices we would without knowing all of the circumstances. And this is another way where we can kind of take things personally when interacting with a person, because we think that they're not willing to make the same sacrifices that we are. Maybe we think that they're not putting the same amount of energy we are into building the relationship. So I would say, like, an example of this is, say you have a friend and you like to go out to eat, or you like to go out to lunch or to brunch, and that's just kind of something you do, and you feel like when you're making an effort to connect with someone, you're meeting to go out to eat or to sit down and go for lunch or something like that. And your friend is always saying that they don't either don't have the time or they don't have the financial resources to go and sit down and eat and have lunch or go to brunch or something like that. This is just a vague example. And so then maybe you start to think, I'm willing to spend a little money to go have brunch or take the time out on the weekend to sit down and have lunch with you, and you're not willing, you never have the time, you never have the resources. Maybe that means that you're not really that invested in this relationship. But there could be a whole lot of other circumstantial things going on with that person that may cause for them to not be able to make those same sacrifices, but it doesn't mean that they are not invested in the relationship. The solution to this is to acknowledge that fairness does not always mean equal contribution. Maybe ask the friend what is an ideal way for you to what is an ideal way for us to spend time together that you're comfortable with. Maybe they're okay with, like, if you have a good comfort level where you go to their house or do something like go to the park and walk around. Maybe they're willing to sacrifice time or meet at the library, but they're just not willing to sacrifice finances. They're not in the position to spend money when they eat. This is just an example, and please don't assume I'm talking about dating, because I do not want to get into the YouTube debate. No. So this is just an example. It's probably not the best one, but just to kind of try to find out where that person is and what they're willing to do, and just not assume that it has to be equal in order for it to mean that it's fairness. So you may be willing to make a lot of sacrifices in a certain area, but not in another. I'm very, very particular about how I sacrifice my time, because I've wasted a lot of time in the past, and it's just not something I'm willing to do anymore. So I'm very thoughtful about how I spend my time. So sometimes I know that might come across as me not being invested in relationships, when it really is that if I'm invited to things, I'm really thinking about the use of my time and how it works out with all the other things I have going on in my life. I hope these 3 patterns were helpful. I tried to pick out a couple that I had kind of going on recently where I was all 3 of these things I literally just caught myself almost going down the wrong way with, and getting worked up, and potentially like having a little bit of tension in one or two of my relationships. And then I was like, nope, I know better than this. So that's why I wanted to come in and talk about it, because I had a couple of examples fresh on my head, because it's really, really easy to fall into these types of patterns, and it interrupts our relationships because we tend to be very self-focused. Sometimes it's just a natural, normal human survival thing. So don't be hard on yourself, but just kind of have this in the back of your head to kind of remind yourself, just so that you can remember to not take things so personally, because a lot of times there's so many things going on with other people and so many factors that go into decision making and how they show up in other relationships and how they show up with you. So I hope this helps. Have a great night. Bye. Bye.